Hi, I'm Alice Strohmeyer from Harmony Paper and Art, and today I'm going to be making this house figure into a house with a snowman in it that looks something like this. I made one sample where I actually put some cotton on top of the roof. It was a real challenge to get that to stay. So I made another sample that I've started on. I found that it was helpful to make a sturdier shape for the house. You could see the way that this house goes together. But I found it a little wobbly, so I made some panels on some stiffer cardstock that I can glue to this one here. However, if you don't want to do that, you could color directly on there. So what I did was, on my panels, I wanted it to look like logs. So I was coloring with pencil crayons because gets a little too wobbly and unstable when you use wet on there. So I'm using pencil crayons. And I made a little piece for the roof that looks like kind of like shingles. What I'm using is, I've got my Crayola coloring pencils here, and I pulled out all of the browns. There was a kind of a reddish brown I was looking for that I couldn't find. So I'm using some woodless pencils that I bought at a thrift store a long time ago. There, I'm going to put those panels aside and show you how I made these look like logs. So what I've done here is I've taken one of the sides and I've taken the roof and I've made stripes on them. I measured this side into about 4 even spaces and then made some lines across the roof to make the shingle marks. So what I did was I started by taking a black pencil crayon and defining my lines. And while I made the first lines initially with a ruler and a pencil, I don't really care that these are straight because I've never seen straight logs. They're not perfectly straight anyways. So I'm not worried if my lines are wobbly, which is a good thing for me because I'm a little challenged at making straight lines freehand like this. So first what I did was make the lines across to show which logs are which. And then I started, what I want to do is make it look round like a log. So I want to keep the lighter colors in the center, and I'm going to shade around the lines that separate the logs to make them look more rounded. Okay, you can see my electric pencil sharpener isn't working, so here we go. I call this scribble coloring. What I want to do is go straight across, and if you can see, I'm using my pencil like this. I'm holding it like this so I can put pressure down here, and I'm coloring with the side. And it covers quite an area, and I don't really want to put every color in every spot. I've got this little piece of paper under here so I can kind of go off of the edges because it's a little harder to color along the edges like that. And I want to keep the light colors in the center, and I'll use the darker colors along the lines to create some depth and dimension. Again, I'm going to start taking different colors, and each time I use a different color, I go in a white space that doesn't really have anything yet. And that way, all the logs are not going to be all evenly colored, the way logs are going to look like logs that have a variety of colors on them. I'm going to start putting aside the ones I've used so I know which ones I've used. And I'm starting from the lightest, and I'm working my way into the darker colors. Again, every time I go over it, I try to find a space that's white, that hasn't been colored yet, so that I'm not layering all the colors necessarily on top of each other, although if they cover each other, I'm okay with that. But it's not going to be a solid color. Let's see if I can get this back to on its side. It's a little easier. So I won't do all of them, fill them all in. Now I'm going to start with my darker browns. I'm going to start using those more along the lines. And as at the line, I'm putting more pressure, and as I move away from the line, I'm lifting up the pressure so it gets lighter and lighter. So it's darkest and heaviest along these lines, and then I lift the pressure as I move away from that line. If you ever looked at wood, it's got all kinds of different markings in it and little wormholes, and so it doesn't matter if you like drag your pencil across and make some extra marks. This kind of sloppy coloring is about creating a look rather than being a solid color. Oops, I'm moving away here. I'm not going to do all of them, so you don't have to sit and watch me color the whole thing. So now I've got a dark brown here. So I've used a bunch of different lighter shades of tan and things like that. A little bit darker brown. And now I've got darker brown here. So I'm going to use this along the lines here, and again, start lifting the pressure up as I move away from the line. And my pencils are kind of dragging and leaving some lines along there, but I actually kind of like that effect. On the logs like that, make it look more like a log. Okay, here I'm going to switch to some of my other pencil crayons here that have a different tone and color to them. So I'm adding a little bit of a more yellow tone. And if you've ever looked at logs or bare wood, you'll see there's quite a bit of gray in there. So I've got some gray here I can put on. And then the last thing I'm going to do is go over all of this with some, over the lines with the black again. Define that a little. I'm going to take some white and I'm going to blend it across all of the light parts to highlight it. Again, we're trying to make the appearance of some shape of the log. And I'll probably take, this is the darkest brown, do a little more shading along there. And I'll just keep adding more layers of each color and until I'm happy with it. Again, I'm going to add a few little stripes and spots. Some of them have already sort of been made by my coloring already. Maybe there's a knot right there. So you can see how I built up the color to create those logs. So stop doing that so you don't have to keep watching me color. On the roof, I was trying to make some shingles. So what I did was took quite a reddish color, more color of cedar or shakes, I was thinking. And I went and colored the whole thing first. Oops, I got something under there. So I'm doing a kind of a cedary color on the roof here. Now I actually went outside and looked at the cedar shakes on my wood shed to see how they look. And they're kind of got some pieces in there that kind of crack and move up to, you could see the shape of the shingles. So there's a shadow underneath that one there, a little bit darker. And they don't line up, so it's kind of like bricks the way they stagger on a roof. Again, I'm trying to make some of the splits in the wood, things that make it look older. Kind of giving a rounded kind of a shape underneath each shingle. Gonna add a bit of brown here and there to them, and definitely some gray because they're all weathered and old. You can see you can just keep building up layers and layers of color and adding. They're not solid in any one color anywhere. And then I'm going to use some darker brown, and I'm going to put a shadow under the shingles because they're kind of lifted from the ones that they're over top of. And I would continue like that until it looks like this. So here's the samples that I made of the log sides and the shingled roof. And I have my shape here. So I think I'm going to glue them on before I glue this together. I have just a glue stick here. I'm going to make sure I cover the whole back, and you can see in my usual upcycling style that this is cardstock that was used for another project, so I'm using the clean side because I don't care, because this side's going to get glued down. And I'm going to put my sides together here. And make sure I get the glue all the way to the edges and the corners. Let's do the other side. I found they stand up a little better with the coloring on the cardstock and adding it this way. There's a little tab, and these houses have been scored to show you where to fold them. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to glue my tab underneath my base. So I'm going to put the glue on this side. And glue it to my base. Press it all together. Let's see how she stands. Oh, she's not doing too bad. Oop. Not that solid yet. I have another piece cut for the bottom here that I'm going to put in. That helps to give it a little more stability. Again, this is just upcycled cardstock that's had another purpose before on the other side. Actually, it was my coloring paper that I was coloring on for my samples. And I'm going to glue on my shingled roof a little bit. I'm going to line it up, and it's going to hang over a little. Now you can hold this together with some paper clips while it dries, or some clothes pegs. And now I've got a house that kind of stands up. We'll have to work it a little bit, but it'll get there. Now you can see it's got log sides, peaked roof. Once this glue dries, it will stand more solidly. Okay, I'm gonna put my scissors here to keep it there. And you can see I made a snowman. Just drew it on a cardstock. We're going to color his nose. Give him a carrot nose. Oop. Coloring pencils are rolling away. Let's see, we'll give him some blue earmuffs. And a blue scarf. And I'm going to give him a little bit of blue shading since he's a snowman. I'll just use this same blue, I think. I tried drawing arms, but the popular vote was that it looked too human. He looked like he had human arms. I've made him some eyes, and I said coal for his mouth, but apparently nobody has coal anymore. We don't use coal. So this is rocks. He's got some button eyes. Could put some stripes on his scarf. Some fringe maybe. Maybe we could put a little bit of fuzzy around the outside of his muffs. They're furry. Muffler's keeping his ears warm. I'm going to outline him a little more here. Now I'm going to cut him out. You can see when I drew him, I added a tab to the bottom and folded it. I'm going to stand him in the center of this house. And I don't think I'll be adding any more snow to this one because it's a little tricky getting that snow to stay on top of the other sample. I'm just going around my snowman. Let's see if we can get this house to stay still. Gonna need a little propping while it dries, but that one was kind of falling over too as it was when it was wet, and now it's quite solid. So I'm gonna glue the tab here. And I'm gonna put my snowman over in the middle near the front here. I can make him stand up real well. There we go. We have our little snowman in a little dog house here. Thanks for joining me for another Arts Matters.